Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Church Security Answer Man. We need to talk about a serious topic. I know that'll get some folks fired up, but we need to talk about females and the violence towards the churches. We're seeing an increase. More females are showing up being involved in this violent stuff, in my opinion. But you look up some of the statistics, you look up some of these incidents that I'm talking about. So let's jump right into it. I want to discuss, first of all, the basis to this is if you look at the Violence Prevention Project Research Center study, which we talked about just a few weeks ago, their long-term study, 56 years, they studied 100 in that time period. They studied 172 mass shooters, and only 4 were women. And 2 of those acted in partnership with a man. So violence traditionally, especially this active shooter stuff and being violent towards people, has traditionally been men. And we talk about that in our Bureau of Justice statistics. 97% of the problem of major incidents at churches are males that are causing the issue. And, I talk about it all the time. We need to be screening males that don't seem right, suspicious males. But is that beginning to shift? And I want to get your comments. It's not just all about what I think. This is a community. So leave us some comments so that everybody can see what you think as well. Do we have more of a problem with females being violent towards the church or being violent intruders around the church environment? Or am I just not sure of myself? I mean, leave me some comments. Let's talk about it. And these statistics are very interesting traditionally. But now what do we get into? Let's start looking at some of the real facts. And I want to show you what I'm seeing. And I want to try to help you learn a couple lessons from this that I'm learning. Genesee Moreno, 36 years old. You remember her from just recently. Lakewood Church, February 11th this year. She struggled with mental health issues for years. She's alleged to have been hospitalized for schizophrenia. And we know when we're talking about schizophrenia that these people oftentimes hear voices and it will draw them and get them focused on the church. So these are things that we need to be paying attention to. We need to care for these people. For those of you that'll send me a comment about that, I care about people. We need to care about them, and we need to try to help them if we become aware, those that are suffering from mental health issues. But we also have to protect our congregations, our people, our masses of people from being victimized. And so, she's undergone a bitter divorce, apparently, a while before this incident happened, in a custody battle. According to her mother-in-law and some of the press information that was put out, she's had many run-ins with law enforcement. And at one point, she stopped taking her meds. According to her mother-in-law, there's lots of information out there from the mother-in-law if you want to look it up. She was violent many times after she stopped taking her meds. So these are the kind of things I just want to call to your attention. My opinions, but here are some facts as well. And we need to be paying attention to this when we're talking about who are we screening, who are we trying to pay attention to, because this isn't an easy thing to try to protect our people. We've got to screen people. We've got to care. We've got to be a warm and welcoming environment, which I'm all for. But we've also got to be screening and paying attention to people realistically all throughout the week. Maybe people that are beginning to have struggles within our church, or people that just show up at the door. And so it's not an easy situation for us to be in. So that's why I want to try to give you lots of opinions. Just February 29th of this year, we had Nicole Kilcreasy, 39 years of age, in Louisiana. Here's a picture of her. You've probably already seen it earlier, but she just stops at a church, pulls over in the little side street there. She starts firing a gun at 4 people that are working at the church, and then she drives away. Fortunately, she wasn't a good shot. She didn't hit anybody. But think about that. I mean, honestly, if we're talking about that, it's pretty easy to say there's got to be mental health issues there for somebody just to stop and shoot at somebody. I guess unless she's having problems with one of those 4 people, or she's angry at the church. But we still, there's a great argument here for some kind of mental health issues, because a majority of people are not going to stop and shoot at a church, or shoot at people that are working at a church. Then we've got next up, we've got Amber Espy, 30 years of age, October 23rd, 2022. So this is one of the older ones I pulled from, but this is a very interesting one. You know, she's at a church in Pennsylvania. She shows up armed, wearing body armor, carrying a couple of guns, and she's threatening people at the church as they're showing up for service. This is like 10 minutes before the service is supposed to start. There happens to be an off-duty male detective there, and she's pointing guns at women there. And apparently reports are she points a gun at the detective. And she's talking about the fact that she's looking for a priest so that she can hold them hostage for whatever reason. And think about this. She's very fortunate that she wasn't shot. If there was off-duty police on site, she's very fortunate if she's got body armor and she's waving a gun around and she's hanging out in the front of the church. She shows up in the front of the church. Very fortunate. So there was some definite people there that cared and tried to, and did successfully talk her through the situation. So, you know, and you begin to look at these cases. Now, these are not mass shooters. Let's make sure, you know, we're off just a tad from that. These are not mass shooters because they haven't harmed or shot multiple people, but which is what the FBI requires to be considered a mass casualty or mass shooting incident. But these are females who are coming to churches and being violent. And there's more than what I'm talking to you about, a few more. But I just wanted to point out these cases and get you thinking about it, give you my opinions, get you thinking about it, especially when it comes to protecting our churches on a week-to-week basis. So Amber, you know, and it's hard not to argue that Amber's having mental health issues, you know, or some sort of crisis. What is that? And so to me, it's mental health issues because, and I'm lumping that in there, but because most people are not going to the churches and saying, I want to take a priest hostage and waving a gun at people and wearing body armor. Scary stuff. And then we have Audrey Hail. You should remember her, just March of 2023. And it's a church school. So it's next to the church. It's a school that she's violent towards. And she's reported to have been a former student there and was under doctor's care for an emotional disorder. There's some other details out there about mental health issues. And, you know, she did shoot multiple people. And she was also the one that you should remember that we began to talk about in her kill diary, whatever you want to call that, which you can see here in the photo. You know, she has in there one point, arrive at the school and look for security when you arrive. So, and then there was reports that there's other written material that said she didn't target a different location because they had security. So that was a great learning opportunity for us. But sadly, another female that's targeting with violence, targeting here in this case, a church school next to the church, but important for us to learn from, take away lessons from. And then we get into Ann Conley, 31 years of age. She goes to a church in the Claremont area of San Diego. This is back in 2019. She's carrying her infant daughter into the church, walked into the service and threatened to blow up the church. And she's also waving a gun around. People tackled her, subdued her. Nobody got shot. Nobody got hurt because, in fact, when they finally got her subdued, they determined that the gun was not loaded. So she had social media posts. If I remember right, she was a kind of a known figure in the community. I believe she was in the media field and was kind of a known person in the community. And her social media post said that she was the Messiah and had a message to deliver to the church, which is, you know, I'm not saying this, it's fact that those that are suffering from schizophrenia will feel they get messages from God and want to go to a church and tell the people. Sometimes it's like, I want you to follow me. God said to follow me. or God said, you need to do this, and I have a message from God. So, look that stuff up. And so, this is important. These are several issues here: females becoming more violent, or more females becoming violent towards the church. So, and, prove me wrong. I'm giving you several examples here. The reality is there are more females lately over the last few years that are being violent towards the church or church property, those kind of things. I just want to give you some things to take away from this. And one of my overall goals is to get you thinking about this and share your opinions. If you have other insights, share the comments down below. But I want to get you thinking about this, because I don't want us just to look at traditionally the male as the violent one towards our churches and mass shooters. It's important, I think, that we're beginning to look at the facts that maybe there's a few more females also that are being violent towards churches or towards the active shooter concept. And so maybe we need to be paying attention more to females and make sure if there's signs or indicators, we don't miss them because we're writing them off as being female and not traditionally violent. So nothing against women. I'm totally looking at the facts of the violence and the fact that they are becoming more violent, or seem to me that they are. More women, it seems, being violent. If so, are you paying attention? Those are some of the questions I want to ask. Are we paying attention to those around us with challenges? If you have females at your church, in your congregation, and you're beginning to overhear that they have challenges, we want to love on them. This is not just about kicking them out or keeping them out. And I want, certainly to encourage you to love on them and do what we can to help them. But sometimes this may be a bit above our pay grade, but do you have somebody else that can help them? Can you help get some direction, some ministry focus towards them if they are having these issues? And we want to be paying attention to it. Are you paying attention when you're screening at the door? Are you paying attention to suspicious females now? And I hope you are. That's one of my big challenges for talking about this, is I hope you are paying more attention to females, whether we're screening them or whether we're hearing something suspicious week to week. We're still welcoming, we're still warm, we're still trying to be loving, but we've also got to protect our people, and we got to protect our congregation from potential violence or from this violent intruder stuff that we're beginning to see more and more. So in a loving way, I'm just extending my opinions here and want to encourage you to look more at this, talk about it with your teams, and talk about what we should be looking for or listening for in our day-to-day, week-to-week work as we protect our people. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you will subscribe to this channel. I want to get together with more of you, be able to share, collaborate, and talk about this stuff, and certainly educate and provide materials for your team. So please like and subscribe, and check out this next video and your journey in church security.